Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to the DreamHack Grand Prix, round number 4 here at Jönköping, Sweden. We have had a great day of action so far. It's a very, very exciting series, but we have another one coming up for you between Odemian and Tholwmenos. And joining me to cast the action for you, that's Admirable and Lorinda. The Dream Team, you guys took a while to cast together, but when you finally did it at the last North American DreamHack, I was very amused and entertained by your combination.
Wow, that is a major compliment from
The one and only has complimented us, yeah.
He even said very.
Wow.
And it didn't sound like sarcastic or anything.
I'm actually a very nice guy. I don't know where I've got this reputation from.
Well, not a nice, just I don't know, unsung.
A guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're definitely...
You got all your good vocabulary out of the way during the casting, and now it's just all gone down the toilet.
That's how it works. It's a limited amount of charges.
But less about us, more about the players, and by default, I'm going to fire on over to Mr. Knowledge over there in the back. Lorinda, what you got on these two players for us?
Which two players?
Odemian and Tholwmenos.
Okay, so I thought people might like to know who the players were. Odemian has got the 4th most ever DreamHack wins. He's also running at 62% whilst doing that, so it's pretty good going, 44 and 27. Tholwmenos plays for Panathinaikos Esports.
Nice.
So he's a member of like the soccer revolution that started to sign lots of players in it now.
Yep.
And obviously he's a strong player in this strong Greek scene. I think those guys all know each other, all help each other, get like 13 top 100 players from Greece every single month, and he's usually one of them. So pretty outspoken guy on Twitter as well.
Outspoken, is that the word we're going for?
It's the PG word.
We need that caster translation book. Outspoken to English. What is the translation?
Let you guys decide.
All right, fair enough. I'm interested in the football team thing, though, because Panathinaikos, you said Tholwmenos is a member, of course. There's a little bit of a history with DreamHack, because Evangelion plays for Valencia, I believe, as a previous DreamHack winner at DreamHack Valencia.
So yeah, more and more. I think somebody did a lineup recently of, sort of all the pro sports teams that have signed esports players, and there's like 200 or 300 of them now.
Wow.
It's just something incredible. It's something that is definitely widening esports horizons. It's good to see.
I just wish I could relate to this soccer/football thing that's going on. I don't know anything about that sport.
You know how to punt, so that's football. We just call soccer, which is when we kick a ball around.
Well, I'm glad Sottle called it soccer, because I then understand what he's talking about there.
So British people who get offended when Americans say the word soccer, we invented that word, okay? So fix your face. You're being dumb. That word is perfectly acceptable. But moving on, before I just trigger absolutely every single British person that's watching this broadcast, Admirable, I know you're a guy that's a big fan of watching metas develop and how key tech cards and so on influence metagames. What have you thought of the deck choices in the lineup so far this tournament?
Some of them have been a little bit interesting. Again, I felt like I was mildly critical of Luker's lineup, which I feel is the only thing that would deserve at that point. Like, Quest Mage is a fine deck still. You just have to have a defined game plan with it. And when you saw his plan come together, that's a big part of building a lineup. The lineup has to come to fruition. It's not always going to work, even if you just have the 4 best decks in the metagame. If you perfectly teched everything and have all the best choices, it's still got to come to fruition. So we saw it last round, but I've really enjoyed seeing that there's just so many different ways to take a strategy in this format.
And here's the question, though. You mentioned if you're just bringing the 4th best decks. We talked a lot in the series that we cast. What exactly is that 4th best deck? I think the 3 are clear, but the 4th one is problematic. Lorinda, have you seen anything so far that might have convinced you as to what the 4th best
I still don't know what the job of the 4th deck is. I think Zoo is the 4th best deck.
Okay.
If you have to play the 4th, if you ban the top 3 decks in Hearthstone, I think Zoo is the next best deck. But I don't think the 4th best deck has to necessarily do that job of being the 4th best deck. If it loses the other 3, what's the point? You can build a bad deck that beats counters, we're last hero standing, that counters one other deck and guarantee that one win. So I'm going with Quest Mage actually still being the best pick for 4th.
Sure. I got a little bit lost in the middle when the 4th best deck didn't have to be the 4th best deck anymore. But
so the 4th strongest deck
isn't
necessarily the 4th best deck for the job.
I know what you meant. I'm just trolling you, Neil, because I love you.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
This segment has been brought to you by Between Two Brits.
Yes. Wow. Nathan Galifianakis.
Galifianakis.
Sure, yeah, let's go with that.
I got lost in the middle of that.
I've just got lost in all of that.
Yeah.
So go back to the players at hand, Odemian, Tholwmenos. If you had to pick a favorite here, do you think there is one? Do you think either of these players is a threat to the tournament as a whole? Like, what kind of caliber of player overall do you think we're dealing with here?
I was going to say, Odemian's got the 4th most wins at DreamHack, so he wins matches of Hearthstone. I think he's definitely a threat to win it all. Tholwmenos, I would normally say that, but he seems a little bit out of sorts. I don't know if he's played quite as much recently, so I'd have him a little bit below that, but he's definitely capable of winning this event. I mean, I wouldn't say that about every player, but we show the best matches, so I'm going to say it a lot on stream that these guys can win the event. Yeah, these two can both definitely win this tournament.
I think Admirable, we've seen 1 or 2 upsets on stream so far as well, where, you know, the name that's been picked out to be the feature match hasn't quite performed up to expectations. Do you have any explanation for that? Is it just one of those days in Hearthstone? Like, what's going on?
I'm going to reference back to my come to fruition circumstance here. I think that a lot of the upsets that we've seen, quote unquote, there's still been strong play on the other side of the board. And that's really something that continues to be a trend in Hearthstone, is that the competition is getting stronger and stronger. And so you're going to have to do something else to find where your next edge sits. Because as players continue to refine that play and understand matchups better on, the idea that you're just going to understand matchups better than your opponent is going to start disappearing. You're going to have to find it somewhere outside of the game. And abusing the powerful cards that we've been seeing, the unique ways that you can couple things together, that's going to become more and more paramount as players continue to compete in these tournaments. You're going to have to find that edge somewhere, or it's going to get absorbed.
One thing I do want to touch on as well as we take a look at the players getting ready is we have actually moved location for this DreamHack from the usual Swedish events that we do in this venue. Normally we kind of have our own little area tucked away in the corner because we do take up a huge amount of space for 260 players sat down playing Swiss. This time we're actually in one of the main convention halls, which means there is a ton more background noise, distraction, crowd noise, people milling around the stage area where these players are playing. And yeah, you saw they had these huge noise-excluding headphones on, but still, this is a scenario that some people who are even DreamHack regulars wouldn't have had experience with. And I think I've actually been impressed overall at how well people are blocking everything out and focusing. Yeah. Neil, you've had experience on that side. You playing in a huge convention at Insomnia, for example. Was it something that you found difficult, you know, focusing just in on the Hearthstone, ignoring everything that's going on?
Yeah, I mean, the number of times I've turned around and told people to go away, or words to that effect.
You've done that to me while we've been casting together.
Sure. Was pretty high, though. Like, you're trying to concentrate on a turn and somebody starts talking about their game or whatever. Yeah, it's difficult. And before, the stage used to be like just tucked away in a corner somewhere, and people used to watching the big cinema upstairs. Now they've got it out there.
Right.
There's definitely a lot more to filter out, and some people do that naturally better than others.
Well, looks like we do have our picks and bans ready to go, so we can find out what exactly the texture of this matchup is going to be as we take a look at the decisions both in the lineup and the ban here. And it's going to be Odemian on Druid, Rogue, Warlock is the, quote, 4th deck being brought here, and the Priest that has been banned out. From Tholwmenos, we see a Warrior packed in there alongside the Druid, Rogue, and Priest. Priest banned on both sides. And we'll start with you. Thoughts/concerns?
Wow. I think I quite like the Warrior in this particular matchup, and the reason.
Sorry, how many R's were in that word just then?
The Warrior.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's none between us. He's got Y's, I've got W's. We've got this set for the rest of the day.
I quite like the Warrior in this circumstance because he's going to laugh at me every time I say it. I'm just going to make sure.
Wait till I start, then we're done.
I'm going to say it as many times as possible over the next 30 seconds. The Warrior versus Zoolock, if that's what it happens to be, or the Warrior versus Rogue in this scenario, can be quite powerful. There's a lot of punishing effects inside of the traditional control warrior style builds that end up punishing these board states that the mid-range style minions tried to build. Sleep with the Fish is a massive player in terms of tempo and eventually being able to scale into whatever that final condition may be, whether it's Taunt Warrior, whether it's N'Zoth Warrior, or even Fatigue Warrior. I think all of them have somewhat of an edge versus the aggressive matchups. Akin to the way that we just saw Quest Mage win, I don't think it's the biggest edge you can get, but it's still an edge you can get.
Okay, looks like the players are just about ready to go. So just quickly before we get into it, Neil, I'll spare you having to talk about Warrior. And we'll just go with some predictions. Who do you think is going to take the series?
I think Odemian takes it. I think he's just got that little bit more experience at DreamHack, so I think he's just that little bit more stable.
Okay. Nathan?
Tholwmenos. Warrior.
Tholwmenos. Split down the middle. I will not break the tie. I'm going to sit on the fence as the host that I am. Don't have to have opinions when you're a host. You can just rely on your analysts. So coming up right after this, we're going to get into the action. It's Odemian versus Tholwmenos.
Unfortunately for Sottle, his two analysts are myself and Lorinda for this scenario. So tie will not be broken, and Sottle looks like a fool when it's all said and done.
Yeah, he just loses either way now.
You're valuing the experience in this one over the actual lineup for it, and that's something that we do from time to time. But in this one, I don't know. It's something about this Warrior speaking to me right now.
It's talking to you. Like, I mean, Monsanto did incredibly well with Warrior in Denver, I believe it was. It may have been Montreal.
Yeah, it was DreamHack Denver, I remember.
And he reached top 8 with that. Anyway, we're going to find out because we're going to go to the Mulligans and see what they have got.
And it's starting off. Oh, okay. Well, that explains a lot. Pirate Warrior is good.
Oh my goodness.
It's not the beast it used to be. There's no question about that.
But you know what is the beast it used to be?
Bittertide Hydra. Yeah. And now one of the problems with that card in this matchup, though, is the potential for inverse lethals with against Defile.
Own goals.
Odemian is playing Control Warlock, and that's been not the favorite deck that we've been seeing on broadcast anyway, where the Warlock slot is concerned. So far, it's been aggression pretty much the entire way.
And this still feels like a new card to me, this Fiery War Axe thing. 3 mana, 3/2. I've seen it so few times since it was nerfed.
Well, Eagle Horn's bow good. We never use that effect. Rallying Blade's good. We never use that effect. Maybe Fiery War Axe is good.
Could be good. And although I've picked Tholwmenos not to win this game, he is a very strong player. He knows a lot about Hearthstone. So if he feels this is good, it's definitely worth paying attention to.
Yeah, I mean, his game plan is pretty straightforward. It is slam minions on the board. It's then slam those minions as effectively as you can into minions that you need to, and the rest of the time is push damage. And so with Odemian here, he has some breathing room with Tar Creeper. He maybe has some breathing room with Defile, but Defile's not the best performer in the world versus Pirate Warrior right now.
Does a lot of damage to that Hydra, but yeah, he's got to get the other damage through. So, did you think we'd be casting Pirate Warrior versus Control Warlock at any point today?
Not quite this soon, I didn't think. And you know, if I had to pick Control Warlock on the other side, maybe not. But Pirate Warrior is still an effective deck. The thing about it was losing the massive early potential of the coin Fiery War Axe into Bloodsail Raider.
Right.
It's a really big hit. I mean, Fiery War Axe, for all intents and purposes, is about the same card in this deck. It's that you lose some of the Bloodsail Raider potential, and you also lose some of the Pirate into Fiery War Axe into Cultist potential. It's there, which were two of the big power turns.
Yeah, I think it's hard to... It's easy to forget just how oppressive that deck was in its prime. But they seem to have calmed that down. It's still playable. We see it occasionally.
Yeah, I'm liking both of Tholwmenos' plays here as well, with the Spellbreaker or the Fiery War Axe in this spot.
So if you like them both, you just go with the more expensive one first. Keep your options open, but you've got to start using these weapons or they're going to start cluttering you up.
It's a true story. I think I like the Spellbreaker more, but it does potentially lead you into some Defile situations.
Also, you may get the situation here where you can save the Spellbreaker for later, play the War Axe now, and then use that to defend your Hydra on the following turn. But he's just going to push to the face.
Well, that Hydra, I think, is what's pushing him towards this direction, is the fact that if this board gets cleared, he's got a big 8/8 to put in the way afterwards. So immediate Hellfire for Odemian, rightfully so, but Tholwmenos just grabs the Bittertide.
Yeah, he's not messing around. He's just going to whack that straight onto the table.
And the weapons in this matchup are very good. Most of the ooze effects have rotated out of control decks because you just don't really need them that much. The Medivh matchups are still strong. In some circumstances, that card can be problematic, so the ooze will splash over in that situation. But this is a ton that Tholwmenos is going to deal over the next 2 turns.
It is. It's going to get dealt with, but it's just a case of how much damage you can get into that face before it all gets removed. And it will also slow down Odemian's ability to tap. He hasn't got Gul'dan. He'll be looking for that. And if he hasn't got the ability to tap into it, he's going to have to draw it like organically. Yeah,
I'm looking at any healing really being the big pickup for Odemian at this point. So Tar Creeper is fine. You know, Earthenring Farseer, if it's there. If there's Serenite Chain Gang, which I've seen in some Control Warlock lists.
I like the way we're equating healing to taunt more and more. But we've seen the Spellbreaker, so it's basically the same thing now.
Yeah.
It's just a better way of doing healing.
Mistress of Mixtures now that he's got a second Drain Soul available. Odemian might have just gotten over the hump for passing this, and maybe I spoke too soon.
He may just need to pick some taunt, but at the moment he just can't defend himself against Arcanite Reaper against these weapons.
Yeah,
but assuming he gets that, he's in good shape.
That second Heroic Strike draw was massive. I think Tholwmenos is actually free to override this Fiery War Axe if he really wants to, and go for the 2-turn setup of the Arcanite Reaper with the 2 heroic strikes. Now, I'm curious if he gets the same value if he simply plays the South Sea deckhand here as well. The problem with that, I'd see, is that it's going to allow the Blood Mage to trade in for an extra draw.
Right, and that is, if he could see the hand right now, he'd be tempted not to give that Blood Mage any options, but yeah, and he's gone for that without being able to see the hand. That, can't stress enough how important that is. He just doesn't want that to happen.
He's got 15 points to push through here. So Drain Soul on the Mistress of Mixtures will be a major added benefit for Odemian. But something else that's lacking here is pressure for Odemian. He's got to gain life, and he's got to get out of this situation.
Yeah, I mean, at some point he has to try and win the game of Hearthstone.
That's why he's drawing here, and he finds a Stone Hill.
And that is absolutely insane. That's so much health represented, and he's willing to wait until next turn.
Wow. And so now, 9-13 Core Crown Elite won't get Tholwmenos out of this even. It would be only 17 damage.
There it is.
Had he played that South Sea deckhand last turn, would this have been enough? Would that have prompted Odemian to either taunt then or play the Drain Soul as well?
Maybe, yeah, maybe Odemian would have played around it, though. It's hard to tell what exactly would have, how much he had in his mind as damage that he was willing to take this turn. But maybe he wouldn't. Maybe he'd have just walked straight into it. So Tholwmenos is sort of going to have to give up this extra card. There's bigger fish to fry now.
Is this a hope situation?
It's so difficult to balance how much to do. I think so. Yeah. Wants to get this damage in now before the taunt minion appears. Will he have any direct damage at all in his deck, though, as in that goes through taunts? Probably not. Maybe he has a second Spellbreaker.
I've seen a lot of Warriors play 2 Spellbreakers lately.
Yeah. There's a lot of taunt about. You kind of get good value out of them.
Oh, my. That might be the full recovery right there.
5 health, though, but yeah. Can he pick up anything that helps him?
Any taunt he can stick in the way. It's good enough.
Yeah.
So now, Mortal Strike is the card that's going to be on Odemian's mind from this point. He wants to find a situation where he can set Tholwmenos to a low enough life total that he can deliver the blow past the idea of a 6-point Mortal Strike.
Yeah, so 13 health is the number to look for. He'll try not to put Tholwmenos below that, and then he'll do more than 13 in one turn.
And I think Tholwmenos just fizzled out.
Didn't look like this was possible a couple of turns ago. There's so much damage coming in. And like you say, maybe that deckhand, just maybe, would have been the tempter. Of course, Odemian being so low means that Tholwmenos will carry on for a turn or two longer just to make sure that there's no more answers.
Yeah.
Because he only needs to connect once with anything.
And this play right here, the way that Tholwmenos is attacked, it's a twofold thing, actually. Like, if he's got Mortal Strike, he's moving closer towards that point, but the armor ups would move against that. But it keeps more health on his Core Crown Elite here. It forces either a trade-in or it prompts a spell from Odemian in the spot.
Yeah, and he's just loading up on the defense.
And on the offense.
Yeah, he's getting as much out there as possible. So, get through that. What have you got? That's not it. Whatever he wanted, that's not it, but he does have the option to take down one of these now.
Yeah, everything's out of time at this point. This is a 2-turn lethal setup for Odemian.
Odemian will actually put Tholwmenos lower, higher than 13, so 14, just so that Tholwmenos can't hit it onto the 1-3, take 1 damage.
The other thing, he might just push past it, though. I mean,
yeah, that's the other choice.
Tholwmenos would have to have both way to push past taunt and the Mortal Strike in this instance. Mortal Strike is one of the cards I've seen most often cut from the Pirate Warrior decks to make room for Bittertide and Spellbreaker.
Yeah, and he's just pushed straight through.
Yep.
Just saying, you've got to have it.
Doesn't have an extra
Don't
threat.
think it's in your deck. It's not in his hand, at least, and that's the end of that. 1-0 to Odemian. Another DreamHack win. 45.
I assumed it was Control Warrior during my pick. If I'd seen Pirate Warrior, I probably still would have picked it.
I don't assume anything. I assume lots of things.
He lost to Control Warlock, though, and that is a matchup that Tholwmenos is favored in. There's a lot of healing and a lot of stabilization, but he drew a lot of weapons early on. I mean, the third Fiery War Axe didn't come into play until turn 8?
Yeah, it was crazy. All right, throwing all of this away because he's looking for that aggressive start, and none of this is aggressive.
Yeah, some of the big payoff cards in this matchup tend to be cards that either could prompt your opponent to Hellfire earlier than they want to, or it's Prince Kaliseth.
Yeah. I mean, you might keep a Scalebane, perhaps, something like that. Just something that occupies that's awkward to remove.
Well, that's one of the ones you don't want to draw.
But you do not want this, and yeah, Tholwmenos. Play a Pirates deck.
And notice that
Pirates.
at Tholwmenos, he's thumbing over the card, and he's got some body language going on here. Odemian is not looking across the table to really pay attention to the body language there. But that's the type of situation where you can very rarely make that physical read on your opponent, that they're clearly unhappy with one of their draws.
Yeah, just a reminder, these guys are sat opposite each other in the stage area.
Yeah.
So there is definitely that aspect to this game available to them. But Odemian choosing to just block out. Maybe he's not comfortable playing that game. Maybe he just wants to play the best cards he can play and get on with it.
Well, the other thing, too, is that if he intends to play turn 1 Swashbuckler here, you're going to get that information up anyway.
Yeah.
But say he hadn't. Say he just chose to hold on to it in this spot instead. That minor thing is something that you can sometimes see players pick up on.
How does Tholwmenos come back from this? It's turn 1 already, but I guess that Odemian's hand isn't perfect. He's got a nice sort of variety of removal, but it's not perfect.
It's a start for something, but what's really lacking here for Tholwmenos is a way to adequately take advantage of board presence right now.
Yeah, he'll get the board very briefly, but I mean, Odemian can clear it whenever he likes with these Defiles. And that is like the full house now. Now he can just deal. He's got the right answer to every different question you can ask him.
The other thing, too, is that Odemian's build is one of the control Warlock builds, I think, that can hang with some of the Druid decks that are out there. It is a very anti-aggro build, obviously, with the pair of Drain Souls, with the Twisting Nethers, which I assume. And he's got Skulking Geist. So his game plan versus a Druid deck is to literally kill all their stuff. Use the Geist to handle the Jade Idol problem.
Yeah, there's no hurry for that Geist either. You just play it on any time in the first 15 turns, pretty much.
And then just use the rest of your stuff to blow up stuff. You can turn it into a weird fatigue-looking war, and it doesn't work that often, but it works enough, I think, to justify this style of build.
And as I've been saying all day, I don't mind people slanting their deck towards a specific goal, towards having a specific aim, if he manages to get that to kill off the Druid at some point. Okay, he queued it first, that lowers that chance, but yeah, he's got every chance of doing that.
Here we go.
It's a slow build for Tholwmenos, but right now, again, just no way to really take advantage of board presence.
Yeah, and if he doesn't get anything big by next turn in the way of a Scalebane or Hydra or whatever he's got with that 5 slot, probably Scalebane, then he will actually start lagging behind on the tempo because he won't be able to efficiently use his mana crystals. For now, he's just about limped along using them okay every turn. But if Rogue stops using their crystals efficiently, they are in so much trouble.
Only a fool rejects the Lich King.
Now, he hasn't got a threat because Zakas will be a 3/3 for 4. It'll be a long time before that card actually gets to use its ability. Patches, no. The other 3 cards do nothing. Well, that's something for next turn, but how do you get a minion to stick to use it with?
That is the big question with this hand.
Is he...
Oh, that's clever.
Buy himself a bit of time, have it back in his hand for the future. And now replace it with a minion that he doesn't want to do anything this turn anyway, so...
That's got to be super telling of his hand, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you're in Odemian's spot, this just spells Bone Bear.
Yeah, I mean, it's 100%. Well, 99, there might be a Vile Spine that he wants to kill your 1/1 with.
That's quite weird. And Tholwmenos favoring the dagger charge over the patches in hand.
So Odemian knows the entire hand. Or will do if he works out the end. From where he's sat, it might look a bit puzzling, but he'll work it out, and then he knows all 3 cards.
Yeah.
And he has Twisting Nether in hand and Siphon, so he can choose how to manage those.
Well, that Vile Spine, I think, is pretty liable to to change some things here. I mean,
Yeah.
it's very rare that Warlock can just plop a minion on this turn and really get going unless it's almost exactly Despicable Dreadlord. Geist is not always found in the Control Warlock decks.
Right.
So I think that Vile Spine is looking quite tempting. In
Just coin it out and waste the coin. Well, it's not waste the coin, it's use the coin for an activation.
Bone Mirror also looks quite appealing in this circumstance.
Okay, that's what he's going to go with. But now Odemian will start fighting back, and he's got such a good handful of removal, and he's still on a decent enough health total. Yeah, he just clears up. Now it's all about finding Gul'dan. Just sticking down taunts until that comes along.
Wow. This Geist has done so much work as just a 4/6.
Right.
That's like insane to think about.
Yeah. Because Rogue just can't deal with the minions when it's got the backup of having no minions of its own on the board. So the Warlock just runs out of stuff, plays a 4/6, and actually that's really difficult to deal with, believe it or
Vile
not.
Spine kills both minions in this spot?
Yep.
Is that the play? I think, how else are you gonna win the game? Maybe you just save the Vile Spine. Maybe, just maybe. But he wants the damage push. He's gonna say, I have to move in here. This is the hope I have. And he's gonna get punished. Odemian has Twisting Nether
Yeah.
available for this turn.
I don't know if it's fair to call it a punish. He has very few resources left. Maybe it's just I cannot beat this deck now with infinite resources, with my little resources. I have to stick it on the board.
Yeah, it's just a punish, right? And it's not anything that he could have done, really, to prevent this, I think.
Oh, okay. So it's the context of the word punish for me is like a mistake that then gets
Ah, I see.
defeated. Whereas in this case, it's just a decision that's been...
Yeah, it's like you're thinking like
I know what you
from a
mean.
parent perspective.
Yeah, because that's what everyone sees me as.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
So, pretty much all over. Probably play a couple of turns to see if he can get a stealth minion. If Shaku was to attack and pick up something really good like Gul'dan, maybe that would be okay.
And Odemian just has so many strong tools for stabilizing these spots. And you start to see the importance of Stonehill in this deck right about now.
I mean, he's actually able to tap now. He's stalled it all out in time. He can play 2 taunt minions and actually tap.
The burst damage from Tholwmenos' deck is seated in attacking. So if you stick a taunt minion in the way, you have cut off something like Leroy Jenkins.
And now, again, Cobalt Scalebane, the only power with Cobalt Scalebane is actually okay as a 5-drop without any help. Its ability obviously doesn't get used. It's obviously much better when you use it, but at least it's roughly costed correctly.
You are seeing the fish out of water right now. I mean, Tholwmenos is he's flopping around and hoping this is going to work. And that may be the last Ungoro pack that Odemian opens for a while.
Yeah, for him it's like
and
shooting
Catacombs.
fish in a barrel.
Hey.
He's got a few cards with which to choose.
Yeah, this is all roads to El Dorado at this point.
So Tholwmenos is going to have to get it done with Druid, and we don't know which sort of Druid it is. We're seeing quite a mix of stuff so far. We've seen an aggro, we've seen a big, we've seen the obvious Jades.
And now we see a 2-0 lead. Odemian and the Control Warlock has made very quick work of these aggressive decks that Tholwmenos has thrown into the mix.
2-0.
That is a very quick way to have 2 aggressive decks fail. I mean, you live and die by the sword at times, but the pace of play that's been in this matchup, I think is quite interesting. Typically, we see players taking a lot more time to think and study the board state and figure these out. But
yeah, fast players always fascinate me because I made this point before, which I know I'm at odds with you, where I feel that playing fast is generally incorrect. There's 1 or 2 players I think it's a big exception for, where they put pressure on their opponent by playing so fast. But in general, I think playing fast is bad.
I tend to agree with you. Now,
okay.
I typically play very fast as well. I find when I start thinking too deep into scenarios, that, like, I talk myself out of things.
Okay.
I'm like, no, I'm not going to take the risk.
We do that on this desk all the time.
Exactly. And it's a really interesting thing to look at for a lot of players. You know, for the most time, I think that I can take my time and look at a situation and come up with something probably a little bit better than what I did if I played very fast. But sometimes it's the exact opposite, and I don't really know what to pinpoint to determine when I'm doing the overthinking spot versus the thinking just enough spot.
And then you start thinking about overthinking, and then you're really overthinking it.
Yeah.
But you still do it anyway because that's human nature.
Aggro Druid for Tholwmenos. It is a full aggro lineup.
Which is interesting with it not being Conquest. It means you've got no... If someone brings a one deck that beats aggro, you kind of struggle.
You definitely can. I think that Aggro Druid in this matchup can steal some games, but again, double Hellfire, double Defile, double Drain Soul from Odemian, and the Tar Creepers in the mix. It's been quite troublesome for Tholwmenos to connect a threat. Now, turn 2 Vicious Fledgling here.
Yeah, that's a threat.
This is the ideal one, I would say.
So
that's why Tar Creepers
slowing it down, right. Odemian, for all of his great percent, I mean, he's got 62% over a big sample here with a lot of wins, 44 wins. He's only made one top 16. That's actually almost like he must just go 6-3 every tournament.
Well, that's part of it too. Is these tournaments do have volatility to them with how big the fields are. You're going to have to. Yeah, I say this a lot, but you're going to have to get lucky as well as play well and bring the right decks.
Yeah, he's a player I would like to see hit the top 16 this time around. He's one of the most regular players, but one of the best percentages for huge samples. Well, huge, but 80-game sample size is huge considering DreamHack has only been around for sort of 3 years. This is the first you had a lot of DreamHacks in 1 year. So these players haven't had that much time to build these samples up. But for the players with like super sample sizes in relation to their peers, he has got one of the best win rates. So it'd be good to see him kick on and get into that top 8 or top 4.
He's looking pretty poised in this match.
He's looking in a good spot to do so. Yeah, hopefully we see him again later in the day if he does pick this off. I'm going a bit ahead of myself because this is by no means over. A living mana could sort this one out a little bit.
Odemian goes for the poison, goes for the wide board. And once again, I'm sorry, Tholwmenos goes for that. And Odemian, once again, has a way to punish that effect.
And the way that Tar Creeper lives through it is so aggravating. It's another thing they've got to get through when they recover.
Yeah, and that's what Tholwmenos thought about in this turn, too. He says, you know what, if I see Hellfire, what that means is I get to captain down the sky. I get a 3-3 on board, start to make some progress.
But is it... I mean, you've got to make progress by about turn 4, turn 5, and not much has happened. Living Mana's going to be pretty essential here, I think.
Both Bittertide Hydras from Tholwmenos have met the same fate if he chooses to go with that here as well.
We might see a head shake if this happens here. Siphon Soul on this Hydra. I think Tholwmenos may just not be impressed.
The answers have been there, and there's the Grimace. Purse the lips. And
now he's out of stuff. So I think we'll see him dig for stuff with a mark. And if he doesn't get the stuff, he's going to be in a world of trouble because there's plenty of time for Odemian to even tap into more answers. Tapping his aggro druid.
Yikes.
Yeah, he's had
Tholwmenos just says, I've had enough. Scoops it up, and Odemian is going to sail to a 3-0 victory. Control Warlock, when it draws answers...
So Control what?
Control Warlock.
Wow.
It is powerful when it draws its answers. And that's part of the thing about it is this deck was built from Odemian to be an aggro crusher.
Yeah.
And I think that it ran a little bit above what you typically expect.
Yeah.
But a pretty prime example of how this deck wants to function and why it struggles to the combo-oriented decks that can exist. Some of the bigger priest decks that are out there with both Highlander and with the actual big priest. And then the same on Druid with having those Jade packages in there to scale your way up the curve to mitigate the impact of the hard removal spells like Siphon Soul and Twisting Nether. But that's what the Geist is in there for, is to try to give you a way to win that matchup. And against Priest, it can service very similar to the same, where you land it into where your opponent expects to villain. Maybe you cripple a lot of their one-cost cards.
Priest can be pretty hard, though, but the Geist, like you say, is usually good against Priest. It can actually help the Priest sometimes. It reaches this point where they're digging for their Anduin, and you don't want to empty those one-costs out their deck. Yeah. But usually, it is pretty good against Priest as well.
The prime time is right when they play Anduin and they set up, you slam it and hope.
Yeah. You get rid of some of those spells.
Yeah, that's really the big one for me there. But again, just like such a good example of how Control Warlock can change the way that you look at and build a lineup. And this one, Tholwmenos has been seeing success with this full aggression lineup. But you run into that brick wall, and suddenly your tournament now is in question. You're like, well, I can't afford to these big missteps back-to-back times in terms of just running into the wrong lineup. You know, making those metagame reads is super important here. And I believe it's the first aggro druid we've seen on broadcast.
I think actually Sotla and I saw one as well earlier on, but there's not that many out there, I don't think. But yeah, going 4th level, because the aggro druid's there to beat like the big lineups, and this takes on that.
Yeah.
So that's the 4th level sort of thinking, although it does take on some of the 1st level decks as well. But good spot to be in. So anyway, we're going to get another game set up soon, I think.
Yeah, that's right. Tars versus No Norms, I believe it was.
I know very little about No Norm, but I know that Tars, we've just seen the 4th most wins from anybody in all of DreamHack history. Tars has got the most wins in DreamHack history with 55.
He has been traveling the circuit